let's start with the homie Lil Duval, who actually said something that I agree with. And the headline reads, Lil Duval thinks hip-hop has become more about podcasting instead of music. His quote is, seems like hip-hop has become more about podcasting, obviously, instead of music, he tweeted. But the response is what I want to read, where it says, a guy responded and said, the conversations, I think he meant to say, are just better than music. 90% of the songs are made in 15 minutes with no thought put into them. It's microwave raps. And another one says, everybody's just trying to make a way for themselves. Got to respect the hustle. So there's some people that respect the hustle, and there's others that are pretty much saying, you know, it's the microwave generation, and that's why, you know, a lot of these rappers are trying to find relevancy. Now, if you guys saw Joe Budden's podcast, Nori was just on, and he really was going in on all of the rappers that, it was all subliminals, but he's like, rappers from our era now they're irrelevant, so now they're going to comedy. That's T.I. He says some of them are starting podcasts. They'll do 6 episodes and then it's dead, and then go to some other trash content. Then they start cooking. That's Trick Daddy. You know what I'm saying? So they're talking about all these rappers that are jumping into the podcast game versus the music. What do y'all think about this comment? Because I actually agree. I think Fat Joe had a podcast that lasted about 2 or 3 months.
Doesn't he still do it?
I don't know if he still does 𝐀𝐄𝐻, the one where it was kind of in a
just like an Instagram live thing.
Instagram live.
Yeah,
maybe I'm tripping. I thought 𝐀𝐄𝐻 was an actual show. Maybe it was just IG Live. I stand corrected.
I could be wrong. I don't know.
I stand corrected, but I haven't seen it anymore.
I've never seen an actual produced show that Joe has done.
No, me either.
Instagram.
Okay, fair enough.
At least me. Yeah.
But what do y'all think about this in terms of, you know, him just saying a lot of these rappers is flooding into the podcast game instead of focusing on the music?
I don't think that's a real thing.
You don't think so?
I think there are some. Look, there's some. I mean, because everyone you named is somebody whose career started like 20-something odd years ago.
Okay.
You know, if you're talking about these new rappers, like, no, they still doing shows and getting money. They ain't got time for no podcast.
Are there any rappers in this generation that have
the person you can consider, and he's not a rapper, is academics.
No.
That's exactly what I was gonna say too. To his point, most of the people in the podcast realm are older rappers that are not getting money in the rap game like that, so they've moved on to podcasting.
Okay.
I mean, essentially, you're supposed to figure out another, not even hustle, but passion, or so to speak, in order to stay afloat, especially if your music wasn't doing it for you.
Yeah. So I think, I guess.
But everybody has one.
But it's not just.
We can name a handful of people that, and plus, like the whole. I think he's also talking about how everybody thinks, "Oh, I'm gonna get a podcast." We've all heard it before. People
definitely have.
When we say, "Oh, we do a podcast," people are like, "Oh yeah, I want to do a podcast," and then they do one, and it's like they realize they're not gonna get sponsored by Mercedes-Benz and Coca-Cola after 5 episodes, and then they just drop it.
I just want to talk to people.
That's exactly what Nori. That's obviously, you not verbatim, but that's exactly what he was saying. That was his point. They started, do 3 or 4, and it's like, oh.
But that's not just limited to hip hop. Everybody,
I think that's
does
everybody.
that.
Because, like I said,
sports people do. I mean, Travis and his brother, the Kelce brothers.
Oh yeah,
they got a podcast.
CJ McCollum got a podcast.
Right. At one point, what's his name?
Current players
plays for the Warriors.
Oh, Draymond still do his.
Draymond still does his.
Pat Bev got one.
So I mean, the podcast space is just wide open right now.
So you guys are saying
people are just now getting hip to wanting to produce their own podcast until they figure out all the work they have to do. I mean, we've talked about that in the past before.
So you guys are saying I guess it's unfair to strictly just point it towards hip hop. It's
Absolutely.
more across the board.
It's across the board. Everybody wants to do a podcast until they actually have to do a podcast.
Right.
What you think, Lon?
Well, I think it goes. I mean, the landscapes have changed in the last handful of years, and this is something that I've said many times, that if you want to be a musician in 2023, you have to marry your music with your content, and podcasting is a way to do that. So everything is content. Everything is content. You can't just.
Sure is.
You have to have a way to, put your stuff out there, whether it be podcasting or YouTubing or social media to some degree. You have to do that. Most people have to do that unless you're one of the 1%.
Yeah, I mean.
So I mean, it's a means to an end.
It's the way new media works. It just is. Like, you can't just say I'm going to. Like, it's kind of like if you wanted to be a rapper today, say you wanted to really go full on. If you're a rapper and you don't have social media, and you'd be like, no, I'm not trying to do all that. Okay, you better be ready to get ready to do all that.
You've got to.
It's not going to work. It's not an option.
It's not an option. So unless, again, you're one of the 1% or you have big backers or something like that. You know what I mean?
You're just that talented.
You know, you can't say, oh, I'm too old. You know, the Temptations have an Instagram account. You know, the
Outkast has a TikTok.
Yeah.
They haven't had an album in 20 years.
You know, the Whispers have a TikTok. There are one-hit wonders who have social media and are using that social media to say, okay, here, come see, and not to get on them, but they're one-hit wonder. Come see 𝐀𝐿 this weekend at the South Carolina State Fair.
JJ Fad just made a post.
People gonna show up.
JJ Fad just made a post because they weren't invited to the 50 hip hop or whatever that happened at the Grammys.
Yeah, a lot of people weren't invited.
Exactly.
They say, like LL Cool J literally said we couldn't invite everybody.
Willie D was mad.
Yeah, I mean,
he had representation.
Yeah,
but I don't know if everybody has a podcast. The thing is it's not hard to start a podcast. You literally just have to go and pay $18 a month and then upload it, and it gets taken care of for you. Now,
the problem is the content.
If people have a podcast that lasts longer than 10 episodes, then I would say okay, you know, but I don't know. I think people are just trying stuff, and we're in a space right now where we can try stuff. You know, I feel like media online is finally kind of caught up to where, like, it's not just big corporations that own everything, even though it is big corporations that own everything, but there's at least an avenue to where there's less middlemen in that aspect. So I don't know. The only rappers that I can think of that have podcasts are like Noriega, Talib has a talk show.
Willie D and Scarface.
I didn't even know they had one. But
theirs is pretty good too.
I mean, but I think it's I think we're also into a space now that there's so much media. I mean, we have witnessed this in real time. We've talked about it, how, you know, sometimes it's hard to listen to music, and, you know, when you're bombarded with so much music that drops every second, sometimes it's annoying.
Overwhelming.
You know, it gets to be super overwhelming to have to listen to music all the time. And so sometimes you can pass that time, especially in our attention deficit culture, that, okay, well, what are we going to fill it with? Well, either silence or maybe just somebody talking, you know? And so I feel like it's just a means to an end. You know, so that's just kind of how I feel about that. But
no, so long story long, I disagree with Duval. You know, I mean, it was a hot take, and that's what he's known for. But, you know, I think it's just all about understanding new media, understanding that you have to marry your, like I said, what Lone said, your art with your content. You know, and your content may not particularly be art, but, you know, if you're not willing to put in the work, if you're not willing, like I can't remember this. There are places you need to go now if you're willing to, if you want to promote your upcoming album release, TV show, whatever. They are not the traditional outlets. You know, you got to go sit down with Math Hoffa, or go to the Joe Budden show, or go to the Breakfast Club, even though that's more traditional media, but because their presence is so strong outside of New York on YouTube, because that's where I see all the interviews. I don't ever listen. Well, I'm never up early enough to listen to the Breakfast Club.
There's competitors for what used to be the Breakfast Club has always been a staple, or a Hot 97, but now Joe Budden might be just as impactful. Matt Hoffa, the same thing.
Definitely, but the thing is it used to be like, oh, you're not really a star until you get invited on the Tonight Show, or whatever show CBS has, you know, or you know, you get on Good Morning America. Those shows are nice. They do reach a certain demographic, but now you got to think, okay, if I have a rollout, I need to go sit down with the Breakfast Club, Hot 97. Then I need to go to Joe Budden. I need to, if I'm hip hop, sit down with Math Hoffa. You know, and there might be some other, you know, depending on what you're trying to do, sit down with DJ Academics. I mean, I know we clown him, but he has an audience, and they have influence over what happens in the marketplace. And so
I ain't saying that.
We're just saying that, you know, the way people did it 25, 30 years ago is not the way to do it now. Like there was a show that I remember liking that came on Fox a couple years ago now, but none of those people who were on that show went to the Breakfast Club. And the Breakfast, I mean, not that they were looking for him or whatever, but I'm like, I didn't see any of these people try to do what I would consider traditional, non-traditional media. You know, if they were waiting to get invited on Stephen Colbert and they never got an invite, then they didn't promote the show on there. But now if you have some new show, you better get out here and you better make these connections. Even for as much flack as he gets, you know, I see not Stevie Wonder, but we just talked about Smokey Robinson sit down for an incredible interview on Vlad TV. And you know what? There's probably no Smokey probably not thinking about talking to Vlad if he didn't have 𝐾𝐿 hitting the store soon. You know, but someone knew, hey, this guy, he gets more views on his videos than he would get if he went and sat down with Stephen Colbert. You need to go over here and talk to him.
Well, it's just like what you said.
So you can be a part of the news cycle for 2 and 3 weeks as he puts out 2 or 3 minutes of content on you per day.
It's just like what you said with the rollout. Like somebody told him you need to go do Vlad. We was just laughing about
Vlad. Like that article that I read from, that was in Bossip. You don't think Bossip is regularly covering whatever Smokey Robinson is doing? Somebody on his team was smart enough that is like, look, we need to do this in addition to this.
Smokey's not going to Vlad if he ain't have what is it, 𝐾𝐿? If he ain't have 𝐾𝐿 come out. I don't see Smokey sitting down with Vlad. I mean, I like the comment that Cool the Playmaker said when he talked about the conversation is just better. 90% of the songs are made in 15 minutes. I think that's actually accurate from a mainstream standpoint.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Because I think I like the conversations myself. Conversations to me on podcasts are becoming more entertaining than the music that I hear. Like I like actually listening to, you know, when they have OGs that have certain stories that I haven't heard, especially Math. Math has been doing a great job.
But that's because they're talking to people whose music that you actually enjoyed.
Well,
so it's almost like you're still listening to that old music that you enjoyed because they're talking to the artists that you enjoyed.
I think that would be fair if I hadn't seen other interviews with people like Lil Baby that I thought was dope. Some of the younger artists that sit down and talk, like the conversations, even hearing them talk outside of the music that they put out, like that's just become a little bit more interesting is all I'm saying. But I feel what you're saying because there's always going to be nostalgia attached to it.